I the a-hole for making all the women in my family leave after they all showed up to my wedding wearing white? I, male 33, have a large family. Mostly aunts and female cousins aside from mom, stepmom, stepsister, and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They've formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be part of the family, or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then after a few months of teasing, they'd announce that they've finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing too, which is crazy as my dad says. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job, and I discovered they've been doing it on Facebook. I had them apologize one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable to be part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologize, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the units unless they apologize, including my mom, everyone immediately apologized and brought gifts for my wife. First of them was my stepmom and my sister-in-law. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the women in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white, and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife react. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any one of them showed up in white, I would have them kicked out, including mom. They said this wasn't true, and that they'd never do such a thing. But then they showed up to my wedding one by one, wearing white dresses, and each and every one of them was told to leave after they tried giving excuses, by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior women of the unit who are mom and aunts also showed up in white, but refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and mom was pissed, telling me to step aside, but I didn't let her in. I had her leave while the men of the family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me in social media later, saying I excluded all the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure that she couldn't handle another woman's presence at her wedding. I had an argument with them, and mom berated me saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. Mom said it took it too far by kicking them out, because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those bridezillas, and were going to change soon as the prank was over. But I ruined my own entire wedding by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said I had to bring my wife and apologize. I haven't seen a lot of them in 2 weeks, and they've excluded me from everything. Was I the a-hole for how I handled this? Edit. I just want to explain that A, this has been happening for years. The men in the family are split on this behavior. Some of them encourage it, like my uncle and my cousin's husbands. One is now an ex. And some are against it, like me and my dad and brother. B, the women claim that there's nothing hurtful in what they do, because they claim they're just looking out for us men, and that their goal ultimately is to make sure the women who enter the family are decent. C, my dad always ends up arguing with my mom and grandmother, since they're the ones who started this whole thing with their behavior and attitude towards other women. D, and I'm not sure if I should mention this, but my male cousin, who's a middle schooler, said he'd make sure to leave the country before even meeting any woman because of this, and it made me chuckle. Also, the dresses they showed up in were simple white dresses. Nothing over the top, but still were white dresses. I realized they went ahead with their plans, even after I stated what I'd do in that case. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. Your family's toxic, and I'm so sad for your wife that they would do that, but also so happy for her that she has a husband who will support her and have her back. I'm sorry your family tried to hijack your wedding for a power play, but you did the right thing, and your marriage will be stronger because of it. Can you imagine how the wife's family thought about all of this? If I were the mother of Opie's wife, I would be really worried about my daughter being around those women. Good on Opie for breaking the cycle. Not today, home. This level of hazing has crossed the line to emotional mistreatment and blackmail, and that is probably understating it. It's very good you stood up for your spouse. You handled it well, but emotional blackmailers use family to pressure the victims into compliance with the mistreatment. Most often, when standing up to familial emotional blackmailers, it ends with forced no contact for non-compliance. No contact is healthier, but it can be hard to be shunned from the family. This is hazing. That's the only word for it. It's repugnant behavior. The women in your family haze new members of their sorority. It is incredibly harmful. No. First cardinal rule, don't wear white to a wedding unless you're the bride. If you do, you're the a-hole. I'm sure they're well aware of this rule. That's why they did what they did. They knew how much that would make my wife feel hurt. To me, that's the point you and her have to stick to going forward. So many sweet daughter-in-laws try to make amends by focusing on, you hurt me, please stop. But the women in your family know they hurt people with us. And that is the very reason they do it. They intentionally hurt people and only stop once that hurt person joins in on picking on the next one. So I think you and your wife should consider just not giving these women more opportunities to hurt people you love. You should probably think about going low or no contact. People who intentionally hurt their own son on his wedding day like this don't really deserve to be part of your new beautiful life. I'd be worried about how they'll treat your wife as the marriage progresses, especially if you decide to have children. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for what I said when my husband told his family basically I handled everything in the house? So me, female 26, and my husband, male 29, recently got married. We both contribute to household chores, but me more than him even after we made separate schedule and split chores equally. He'd ask me for favors like fix the kitchen faucet for him, deal with the bugs in the backyard, etc., which are originally his chores. But because he said he had to finish work or complain from being tired, then I'd handle them happily and without hesitation. We were visiting his parents for the first time since we got married. My mother-in-law and I were talking about home duties and whatnot. Then my father-in-law asked my husband how marriage life was treating him, and my husband sighed and said, "Oh man." Then started talking about how exhausted he was from handling almost all responsibilities and taking on so many chores this past week, from fixing the kitchen faucet, dealing with the bugs in the backyard, taking our dogs to the vet, cleaning the entire basement, which are all things I did for him. But clearly he was trying to take credit. It kept on about how he does most chores around the house and working as well, so he had no me time. He said, basically, I handle everything in the house, while smug smiling. I was taken aback completely. I said, hold on, because literally all the stuff he mentioned was done by me. His parents were like, huh? He kept staring at me confused, as I explained in details how I handled each and every one of those chores, which should have originally had been done by him, but he kept making excuses to get out of it. I even shared pictures I took that I posted on Facebook, especially the basement like before/after pictures. Then I told him no more favors from now on if this is how he's gonna play. Silence followed, and the entire family side-eyed my husband as he kept looking away. He didn't say anything till we got home, and that is where he pointed out how I was wrong for how I responded, and should have just either agreed or said nothing at all, but apparently made him feel incompetent in front of his family. We argued, and he apologized for saying what he said, and asked me to apologize so we could move past this. But I refused, and said I was being treated in an unfair manner since I worked hard to do him those favors. Not today, home. He made you look lazy in front of your in-laws. And not only did he lie about taking the brunt of household responsibilities, but he specifically brought up chores that you both know you did. That's not okay. It is purposefully putting you down in front of others. Not a great start to a marriage. This. Not only did he expect you to go along with a lie, he also expects you to apologize for it. Apologize for what exactly? Him playing stupid games? I don't think so. This would be my hill to die on. He put you down to his family to make you look bad because he couldn't come out and be honest. His lies had consequences. One of them having to be his apology for causing an issue, not yours. Your husband is an a-hole. He deserves to feel incompetent because he chose to be that way. You didn't put a gun to his head and tell him to lie. Why should you clean up his mess and apologize? Hell no, OP. Be honest about what though? This is just such a weird thing to lie about that I have to wonder his motivation. Why on earth wouldn't he have just said, actually we've just kind of been settling in? Or even, meh, I wasn't feeling great this week, so the wife picked up the slack this week. This is his family. They know his character pretty well. I think most adults are past trying to impress mommy and daddy. He literally just went out of his way, for no reason, to make his wife look bad. Not today, home. If he doesn't want to feel incompetent, then he should be incompetent. I never understand people would do this. Like he knows he does nothing. He knows Opie knows he does nothing. But then he tells bold-faced lies and gets hurt when the truth comes out. Like, if you know the truth is going to make you seem a certain way, then why don't you just shut your mouth or put in the work you want credit for? He could have even said, "It's hard, but OP has been great," if he wants to play like he contributes. But he chose to lie unprovoked and is now trying to guilt her into an apology. Just yikes. The only person who made him look bad is himself by lying. Good for you for calling him out and sticking to it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going to stay with my in-laws after my husband told me I shouldn't be here when I tried to surprise him and getting him in trouble with his family? So, my husband travels a lot for business, so we don't get to see each other as often as I would like, unless I go with him, which isn't always possible. I found out he was going to be in the country his parents live in, and I thought it would be a nice idea to fly there too, so I could surprise him and see my in-laws as well, since I haven't seen my husband since August and my in-laws since 2019. Well, it didn't go down as I had planned. The first thing my husband said when he saw me was, "You shouldn't be here." And when I asked him what he meant by that, all he said was he had a meeting that he was getting late for and left. Honestly, his whole reaction really hurt, since I thought he would be happy to see me, since we haven't seen each other in so long. I ended up going to see my in-laws since my sister-in-law was also visiting her parents, and she kept telling me to come over. When I got there, they were much happier to see me, but noticed I was upset about something. They kept asking me, and I told them about how my husband had reacted. My mother-in-law basically told me I would be staying with them for the duration of my visit, since he couldn't appreciate me coming all this way to see him. My father-in-law sent me a message telling him to come to their house for dinner since I was here, and when he got here, they basically told him off for how he reacted. Once dinner was over, my husband wanted me to come home with him so we could talk about what happened. But my in-laws kept insisting I stay with them instead, and I ended up choosing to stay with them instead of going with him. My husband comes over every single night for dinner and is very obviously angry at me still. We did talk about it through text the day it happened, and my husband was mad that I chose to stay, and that I ran to tattle to his family. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. His reaction is concerning and leaves me wondering if he's got a second family, a second wife, or a mistress. And I also wonder if his family is aware. Yep, first thought. "You shouldn't be here" is a very weird way to react, even if he is busy or stressed. Yes, I'm away from home for college and don't get to see my family. College is hard and I feel stressed all the time. When my parents and brother visit though, it's like the stress disappears, even if it's just for a minute or two, and then the feeling's right back. I would imagine seeing my significant other would elicit an even greater response of joy. I've been at a new job for about a month that requires 50% travel. I was away last week, home this week, and I'm leaving Monday for another week. If my partner showed up at my hotel or office to surprise me partway through the week, I would be overjoyed. Just to show up for the other side of this, I would not be overjoyed at a surprise like this. So I think it's a little unfair for the sub to immediately pile onto this guy, for not being stoked about a pretty huge change of plans he has to navigate around now. If Opie had given him some space to get over the initial disgruntlement and heard his side of it rather than bring the in-laws into it, letting them tear into him without hearing his side, and then choosing to stay with them without even hearing his side, there's a decent possibility Opie wouldn't even be here posting this. If I were on a business trip and I already had a general sense of how everything was going to go, and I was on my way out the door, and then my significant other showed up out of the blue without me being able to get her settled in or have time to process what was going on, I'd have to be rattled right before a meeting that I was already running late for. My initial response would be less than warm, let's just say. It would be more along the lines of, "What are you doing here?" Meaning, "I can't pay attention to you right now, and we're not going to have a quality interaction, but now I'm rattled and have to recalibrate," which I can do, but it's going to have to happen after the meeting. And I really wish you hadn't put me in the spot, which could have been easily avoided with a text message that I would have really appreciated. But that's me. I don't think it's fair for Opie to show up out of nowhere, and then be upset that her husband didn't give her the welcome she wanted right before a business meeting. Just because she might have liked such a surprise, doesn't mean everyone is into that. I feel like people who like surprises and change gears easily don't understand people who don't, and then get their feelings hurt like this. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abruptly leaving my boyfriend at his family at dinner after they refused to respect my allergies? I, 19 female, recently got the chance to safely see my boyfriend, 20 male, family for dinner. I work as a paramedic and would reject going to any plans my boyfriend had with me wanting to go see his family due to COVID. I recently got the chance to have a 2-week vacation. I decided to accept my boyfriend's offer to see his family. I asked my boyfriend what would be served, and just checking in to see if what they would make won't have seafood/shellfish, since I'm allergic to them. The day comes that I had a good time with them, up until the time for us to eat. I noticed that the food they had mostly had either seafood in it, or was entirely seafood. I asked if they had anything else, but my boyfriend insisted I should just eat a little to not be disrespectful. I stood my ground and informed him and his family that I'm severely allergic to seafood. And after they insisted that they won't serve me or make anything that doesn't have seafood, I thanked them and left. Today, I got angry text messages from my boyfriend, upset that I disrespected him and his family, and wanted me to apologize to them. But I'm not going to. Am I the a-hole? This is a tough one. Should you protect yourself from a severe allergy attack, or should you protect your boyfriend's family's feelings? Not today, Holopi. And drop the boyfriend. He's got a medical condition where his head is stuck real deep somewhere. It blows my mind how many of these types of posts I read where an in-law family expects a daughter-in-law or sister-in-law to eat what they're allergic to. It's like, so you would rather they die? Okay then. What is disrespectful is telling someone to endanger themselves to cater to people and willing to be reasonable people. Your boyfriend is actively trying to hurt you. And his family. There is literally no reason that every dish had up have seafood in it. These people were trying to prove Opie was lying about her allergies. If she had eaten it, then she would have been blamed because she had an attack. This boyfriend is bad news, and I would dump him. Am I the a-hole for blindsiding my landlord with a 1-month notice after they blindsided me with a 3-month notice? I know you probably read that and thought, huh? How can you be blindsided with a 3-month notice? Allow me to explain. Me and my wife were renting and had agreed to a month-to-month lease. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a lease that may be altered or terminated by either party as long as proper notice is given to change or end the lease. Our contract stated that 30 days notice was required from both parties. We got along with the landlords great and lived there for about a year and a half. We never made a late payment. We would often have dinner together, and there was a mutual like for one another. After some time, they began telling us that even though it's a month-to-month lease, they wanted to continue this arrangement long-term. They gave us the whole, "We love having you here, and we want this to be a long-term thing." We felt reassured by that and stopped being so on edge all the time. We stopped worrying about them kicking us to the curb. We figured we could stay there for years, and we were happy about that. That is what they filled our heads up with, that we are secure. We were finally at peace. Then, one day, my landlord comes up to us and explains that, unfortunately, we will need to leave in 3 months because the space we were occupying was going to be converted for a family member that was going to move in. We felt a little betrayed and lied to. However, we understood that is what we agreed to, and we should have never relied on their word to begin with. He kept telling us, "I gave you all 3 months notice instead of 1 because we really respect and appreciate you guys. I'm doing y'all a favor. That shows we really care." Half of me agrees, but the other half was like, "You're still a prick." That same night, me and my wife began apartment hunting. Luck was on our side because we found a better apartment with more space at around the same price as our current apartment. We put in the application and got accepted 1 week later. We signed all the paperwork and were given a move-in date. The time came to tell our landlords. We told them we had found a new place and wanted to activate our 30 days notice. We thanked them for everything, the same stuff they fed us. We let them know that after being told we had to leave in 3 months, it was in our best interest to find a new apartment sooner, and so we did. We didn't want to wait too long to start looking and end up homeless after the 3 months. They went off on me and my wife, telling us we can't do that and that they would take us to court. They were yelling personal insults to us and the police were called. Am I crazy for not believing that we did something wrong? Now for the top comments. Our contract stated that 30 days notice was required from both parties. This is all we needed to know, and the only real thing that matters here. You're abiding by the contract that both you and your landlord signed. You're not the a-hole. Opie wouldn't be the a-hole to abide strictly by the contract regardless. But it also doesn't sound like they sat on notice maliciously. They found a place to move and let them know. Landlord wants the extra months of rent. Too bad. Totally agree. Opie was weirdly hung up on the 3 months notice thing. Like that actually was very kind of the landlord, because it puts them in the exact position they ended up in, missing out on 2 months rent. It wouldn't be a kindness if they weren't sacrificing anything. If the landlord really wanted you there longer term, Opie, they would have switched you to another lease. The landlord is unequivocally the a-hole for getting mad that Opie basically responded to the gesture of kindness with, "Okay, I accept, and will use that extra time accordingly." They clearly just wanted the credit of doing a nice thing without actually doing anything meaningful. But Opie, the whole only 3 months notice after saying how much they liked us but never moving us to a longer-term lease angle isn't as sympathetic as you seem to think it is. Neither of you did anything wrong until they got mad. I was going to say no a-holes here, as they can ask you to leave regardless of what they said before, and you can tell them you're leaving, right up until the point they freaked out. I'm betting they were counting on those 2 months of rent to help pay for the modification to the space for the family member. Not the a-hole and take photos of everything before you leave. If they freak out now, they could freak out about damage and keep your security deposit. Opie, buy a newspaper that morning and put that front of the newspaper in the pictures. It's a way of date stamping them so they can't claim the pictures were from the move-in date. And take pictures of everything. They're definitely gonna treat that security deposit as a bonus month's rent. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the new neighbors that they got what they paid for, including being shunned by the neighborhood? Where I live, real estate developers have started snatching up family homes, bulldozing them, and building enormous $2 million houses on the plots of land. The houses also stick out horribly in terms of aesthetics. Think single-level brick homes with a 3-level gigantic white and black box in the middle. My home's been in my family for several generations. We have always been known for having a large, beautiful garden. We invited over kids to help with gardening. We gave away so many veggies. We'd hold parties, etc. It's been a neighborhood treasure for years. Until developers snatched up the lot next door, bulldozed and erected an enormous house that blocks out the light to most of the garden. Many of us tried to fight it with the city, but everything was denied. It was heartbreaking. Our neighborhood has been changed forever. This was a link to my family, and I almost have to go through a grieving process for it. The new owners moved in and were not welcomed warmly by people in the neighborhood. I avoided them for as long as I could, other than politely waving or nodding. It was a young couple in their early 20s. We finally came face to face, and the woman asked if we could chat. She said that they felt like maybe they'd done something wrong when they moved in, or if they aren't pulling in their trash bins or something, being too loud, etc., because people haven't been very friendly. The guy says that he is surprised considering it felt like a nice and somewhat affluent neighborhood, and given the price, he was expecting friendly neighbors. I asked if they had done any research about the area. They said that they moved from California, so no. I said that maybe that was their mistake. They said they didn't know what I meant. So I asked if they'd ever looked in our backyard. They said yes, and said they think the garden is cute. I said yes, the garden that now has about half less sunlight than before that house was built and was a neighborhood treasure. The guy said, well, it's not our fault you built the garden there, is it? And I said, well, you guys got what you paid for. $2 million for a house that everyone in the neighborhood hates. I said that I hoped it was worth it and wished them a nice day. When I told another neighbor about the exchange, she told me that she does feel bad for them moving without having any idea what they were getting themselves into. Am I the a-hole for telling them that they got what they paid for? So you unloaded your pent-up anger at the developers on a couple who unwittingly bought the house? You're the a-hole. That couple did nothing wrong. They bought a house that was on the market. Now, if they had been the ones to buy the house/land from the previous owner, bulldoze it down and then build their $1 million mansion, you might have a leg to stand on. But from what you say in the post, the neighborhood is taking out their frustration/anger on an innocent couple. Yeah, but I do get why he'd be angry if instead of, oh, we're sorry we didn't know about your garden, they decided to go with, it's not our fault you built your garden there. You're the a-hole. They just bought a house. Did you research the neighborhood? Is your garden a big thing so well known it's in papers? That people could know about it without having talks with the neighbors before moving in, and specific talks. And even then, they did not design the house. Just bought it. It is not their fault, and you are being angry at them as if it is. Even if they researched, it's not like the house being on the market or someone else buying the house would have changed the fact that the house existed. No matter who bought the house or if it sat empty, it was blocking the garden. You're the a-hole. I've seen a lot of NIMBY-type folks on here, but you take the cake today due to treating people like crap because they apparently stole your sunlight, and you were big mad about it. These people likely had no idea about your garden or what was there prior to the house they bought being there. It's not their fault the house was built there. You want to be mad? Be mad at the real estate developers. That's the actual bad guy here, not the people who bought the house. Okay, but people from places like California moving to places that are smaller and cheaper building houses like this really is messing up the market in some states. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I purposefully bought a smaller house so my mom can't come? My 34 female mom, 65, got divorced from my dad when I was 20. I had saved all my money for years and had been working 2 years at this point, and the economy crashed and houses were so much cheaper. My dad had remortgaged our house so much it was worthless, and the bank had to get it. I bought with co-ownership, so I paid a mortgage on half the house and rent on the other half a 3-bedroom house. Otherwise, my mom and 2 brothers, Josh 13 and Richard 18 at a time, would have been homeless. Since then, I have paid for everything and paid off her credit card debt twice, about £6,000, and I buy absolutely everything including food. For the past 3 years, she has become absolutely unbearable, commenting on everything I buy, and keeps saying, when I was your age, we didn't have money to waste on XYZ. It's my money and I work all the time. She will never give me peace, and working from home has just made it worse. Constantly nitpicking, asking the same questions over and over, starting arguments and then playing the victim. Richard is married now, and as always, everything revolves around him even though he has never done anything. So I said next year when she gets the state's pension and has loads more money, she's gone because she's starting arguments every other day with me and Josh. I told her that she can move in with Richard as he has a 4-bedroom house or find somewhere else to live because I no longer care. She keeps saying, what will people think? All she seems to care about is what other people think, and not the hurt she caused all the time. So would I be the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. But like, just buy the size of house you and your husband want and tell her to pound sand. Thanks, though I don't have a husband because she's driven away anyone I've ever liked and complained, what would I do if you got married? Where would I live? To be honest, I want a house that Josh, youngest brother, can live in and that my 2 little nephews can stay a couple of nights a week. You do realize that she's keeping you single so you'll be her caregiver in her old age, right? Your brothers are there to give her grandchildren and you're there to cater to her every whim. Can't let you get a family of your own that you might prioritize over her now, can we? She's a grown adult who has been parasiting her child for over a decade. Kick her out now. She can fend for herself. Not the a-hole. You are completely right. I'm so sick of getting taken advantage of. I stand up to her and then she just wears me down. He won't take her. He told me in August that he doesn't want her. That doesn't mean you have to keep her. Go to Citizens Advice and they will tell you how to legally evict her because it's a process. But if she has proof that she's being formally asked to leave, then she will be helped by the council. You know, I never even thought of the Citizens Advice Bureau. I will give them a call tomorrow. Please update. You're empowered by these comments, and that's great. But I fear as soon as you get near your mother, you may cave because she's had 34 years of molding, brainwashing, and frankly, emotionally mistreating you, and that you'll return to old habits. Take care of yourself. Evict her, and it'll be on Richard to tell her to her face he doesn't care about her. Good luck no matter what. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my neighbor and getting my sister in trouble? Background. I, 40 female, am unmarried. No kids. My sister, 45 female, is married with 3 kids and bought a house about 3 to 4 years ago in the super nice suburb of town. It's a great area. Lots of parks, trails, with a really good school system. I found and bought a house in the same neighborhood. I loved it for the size of the yards, great for my dogs. Love that I can now walk or jog to all the trails in the local lake. It is, however, very suburban, and most of the people here have families, making me a little bit of an outlier. I'm fine with that. I don't really care. I live in the house by myself. Neighbors have been nice, but most of them hang out with each other and have playdates with the kids. There are neighborhood barbecues that I have been to. So a week ago, I'm watching TV at home, around 9 p.m., and all of a sudden my dogs start going crazy. My doorbell rings multiple times, and then rapid knocking. I jump off my couch, look at my Ring doorbell, and it's a stranger, male, knocking on my door. I have no idea who he is, and he just keeps banging on my door. My dogs are freaking out, so I call the cops. He goes away after about 5 to 7 minutes. The cops show up 20 minutes later. I show them the video and they told me they know who it is, though wouldn't tell me, and then left. The next day, I get a phone call from my sister. She's super miffed that I called cops on Dave, and how could I do that in this community? I'm confused. Who is Dave? Oh, it's apparently the local neighborhood watch guy and school teacher, and he thought I was driving too fast down the street and wanted to talk to me. I was flabbergasted because 1, there's no way to drive fast in this neighborhood as there are stop signs everywhere. Cops everywhere. They have their own police force, and there are speed bumps every 2 blocks. 2, why didn't he call/text/email before knocking on the door at 9 p.m. on anyone's house, much less a single woman at home? But sister said that my reaction was totally over the top, and you don't live in the hood anymore. People visit other people. I stand by my right to be safe and not get harassed by the neighbor. But sister is angry because there was no danger whatsoever. And apparently, this was the discussion at the recent PTA meeting. And since I wasn't there, because why would I go to a PTA meeting? She was charged with defending me and now she looks bad by association. She also brought up that I walk my dogs without a bra on all the time. And that's just not good. WTF? She wants me to reach out to Dave and apologize and say that I am absolutely sorry for calling the cops and driving fast. She told me that I needed to play nice with the neighbors unless I wanted to be moving in a year. Maybe I did overreact, but I'm just so annoyed that I don't want to do anything related to that. And maybe that makes me the a-hole. Thoughts? Not the a-hole. What Dave did was highly inappropriate, and you being discussed at a PTA meeting was also inappropriate. Is this an HOA? Actually, no, there's no HOA. This is partially why I bought here. The PTA meetings apparently have just slowly become a neighborhood meeting because everyone is their guest, per my sister. There are a few other people here that don't have kids or aren't married, but I don't know what they do or care. If you care enough, approach the school board to alert them that PTA meetings are being exploited because non-school related issues are being discussed. These people need to get a life because this is a gossip club. The school board probably doesn't care. Communities like this are all ran by the same chuds, and nothing productive ever gets done. Just one big community circle jerk. I'm sorry. The moment the cops basically went, yep, we know who this guy is. You know they aren't a huge fan of him. If they thought Dave was this awesome, helpful guy, they would have gone, oh, it's Dave. He lives on Maple and does neighborhood watch. I imagine it was related to that, but we'll speak with him still. Instead it was, yeah, we know who it is. That's a, we find this guy a bother. Because Dave is a wannabe cop and is in everyone's business. I bet this isn't the first time that Dave has overstepped his boundaries. Because he is bullying the neighbors to follow his rules. Sorry, I mean the neighborhood rules.